tunes, Chris.
Got the tunes going. Very, very appropriate.
That's your thing. I love it.
Tasha, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How's everyone doing today?
And very good. Gabrielle, thank you for joining, but we're going to pop you off real quick until the moderation panel, until the Q&A part. Brian, if you are out there, we made you speaker. Just hit share audio. There we go. There's Blake.
What's up, Blake?
We got the style check going, huh?
Brian, I see you as a speaker, so you're messaging me. All right. Kevin, did you get Natasha? You have a drink there, Blake? What do you got? Water? What do we?
I didn't know were we doing happy hour? I mean, I figured if I'm gonna be talking for an hour, I might as well have something hydrating, you know? Keep my skin pure.
So responsible. So responsible.
John Draper is probably a sensitive icon. I would say he would agree that an old-fashioned is hydrating.
Depends on how things go. I might go crack a drink on it, depending on how things go.
Travis, how do you feel about the music right now? I know you're out there. Come on, man. It's Fleetwood Mac. It's trending right now. The cranberry juice video? Brandon, I see you trying to get into the panel. I know you have questions for later. I promise you will be the first one on our panel.
Love it. What's up, Brandon?
All right, we're going to give Brian 2 more minutes, and then we'll start doing introductions. Fleetwood Mac, Travis, come on.
Travis is uncultured. That's his problem.
No, Fleetwood Mac. I mean, at least see the viral video.
I only know one Fleetwood Mac song, but I know the Fleetwood Mac song.
You know the song. That's the important thing.
And I only know it from a meme.
Not even their best.
So the deeper we go, the more actually uncultured I sound.
That guy got a free truck that says Ocean Spray on the side today.
I saw that. That's amazing.
A lot of my music knowledge, like pre-2000, comes from. Do you remember those shows on VH1? Like I love the '90s, I love the '80s, or like top of the songs of the '80s. So you just watch one of those one or two times, and you're cultured. You know these random songs by the OJs.
We'll give one more hype up song before we get. Oh, there he is.
All right, he
entered the chat. Brian, we put on this music just for you.
You know what? Thank you. First off, all right. Second off, I have no happened. Okay. Third off, ignore the whiteboard behind my head. It ain't mine, and it's got all sorts of weird things on it. So, it is what it is tonight, folks. How are you?
Brian, I said you were the Hoppin' Pro, and you said we don't need. You were like the guy that I saw do Hoppin' the first time.
I just sent you a screenshot. I can't make this up. Like somehow the session's broke. I don't know what to say. Something's weird.
Comes on with the headset on.
Oh yeah, Jobber's ready. We're ready to rock.
All right, we're letting people roll in, but good. Happy Wednesday, everyone. My name is Chris Gannon. I run a company called Captivate Talent. The only plug you will hear from me is we are a recruiting firm that specializes in revenue placements for early and growth stage startups. And we are looking for a fantastic SDR manager for one of our clients, and I had to plug that one tonight. Kevin could attest that is the most pluggy I've ever been, but I had to throw it out tonight.
Kevin didn't call me. I don't know why that is, but all right, it's fine. I'm not taking it personal.
The great thing is, after I give a little intro, you won't hear from me tonight because Kevin Mulrain from Global Web Index and the Addicted to Growth show, which helps us put this together, will be our moderator tonight. And our format's going to be a panel discussion, but we want to be a little different. So about 30 minutes, Kevin, you said, about 30 minutes, 40 minutes through, we're going to open this up to the audience. And we want everyone out there to jump on board because we have 3 awesome guests tonight, and we want you to ask them your questions. We want it to get a little dicey. We want a little – I hope it doesn't get too dicey, actually, from our prep session that we did. We do want to get it a little dicey. We want to hear different opinions. We want to hear the questions that are actually
I am going to get a drink. I'll be right back.
Yeah, get a drink.
So we're not just going to talk about which department the SDR function should sit in. So at this point, Kevin, the show is yours. I'm going to pop off and enjoy my drink, and we're going to go from there, man.
Have one for me, Chris.
You should have one yourself.
It's right here tonight. This is it. Okay. Child care is next.
All right, guys. So I'm super pumped for tonight. I think especially not just the topics. I think this is a really important and an interesting topic to discuss. But as Chris alluded to, our prep session was high energy to say the least. So I hope we all bring that tonight, which I'm sure we will. But before we dive into some of the questions and the topics, let's just do a quick 30-second intro. Who you are, what you're all about, but if you can touch a little bit in terms of why this topic is important to you, or why you're excited to speak to the topic tonight. So, Natasha, why don't you kick it off?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's nice to. I wish I could see everybody, but Brian, Blake, Kevin, your beautiful faces are enough. My name's Natasha. I'm obviously not from the United States. I'm sure my hair gave it away. I love sales development. I've been working and leading and growing and building sales development teams for about a decade for SaaS companies, and I've never grown out of it. And that's partly why I'm passionate. And I think this might come up in conversation later tonight. Why does sales development have to be so transactional? Why can't it be a full career? I think I'm the living, breathing proof that you can make an excellent career within sales development. And I love the instant gratification that comes with sales development. And I love the experimentation that you can get away with. And that's part of why I'm still here and passionate about it.
Awesome. Brian, over to you.
Well, Brian Elsesser, I am the Senior Director of Sales Development at AirCall, which is just a fancy way of saying that I help them run their outbound division. I, too, have made a career in sales development, absolutely love it, and I agree with Natasha. It's our first agreement of the night that you can make a career out of sales development, so you should totally go for that. I think that throughout my career, I've been doing this sales for nearly 10 years. 7 of them has really been in some sort of sales development capacity. And that means that I've had plenty of opportunity to fail fast and find out what doesn't work as much as I found out what does. So tonight, as you're thinking about your questions, take the gloves off, ask, because sure enough, there's going to be an answer on a panel of these 3. So that's it.
Awesome. And Blake, over to you.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Blake Hudson, and I am a sales manager at Victory Lap. But long before that, I was actually a career changer and someone who had a background in politics, background in higher ed, and I wanted to get paid like a salesperson. So I went to Victory Lap as a candidate. They were a sales boot camp. They gave me the confidence and the competence that I needed to thrive in this industry. And I vividly remember going into that first sales role and seeing a lot of people bounce around. There was not so much up, but definitely down and out. And it hurt me to see that, because for all the talk about SDRs being the low man on the totem pole, they're doing all the heavy lifting, right? And so it's just, now I'm in a place where at Victory Lab, I get to help young sellers establish that sense of identity and purpose. And that's really important for me because, sales is a lot about achievement. You make deals, you make money, you're achieving. I really want to pursue fulfillment. And for me, fulfillment is when your success finds a completion in the lives of others. So that's why I'm here today. Hopefully I can give you some insights, make you laugh, either at me or with me, but we'll see.
Awesome. So, when we talked, I think one of the foundational pieces of all this is that we all view sales development as probably, definitely arguably one of the biggest and most important teams when it comes to revenue performance, success, and failures. And so really investing in setting up these teams the right way from the get-go is critical. And so one of the things we discussed was it really starts with the culture of your team, the culture you build around your team. We talked a little bit about the culture of accountability, but for you guys that have been running these teams, what does a good culture around sales development look like? And if you can dive into a bit of how do you actually implement that culture? Blake, why don't you kick it off?
Actually, I'm going to pass on this one. Sorry, I'm going to pass.
Hard pass, right?
Hard pass. Well, Brian, I think you talked a bit about accountability.
Yeah. So, look, I think first and foremost is that it's really easy to fall into the trap that accountability is all in an SDR function. KPIs, metrics, hold the line, right? Like take it to battle. I think that's going to be the pressure that you're going to handle if you are the leader of that division, but you need to be able to be what I call the big translator, right? The great big translator, the translating of what is being given to you by your senior leadership down to what you're being told by who you're supporting. And so I think that many times we get too caught up in the KPI, got to go and get those dials in, got to make sure you get those emails in, grind, push. Well, there's only so much pushing you can do before someone breaks. So something that we incorporate on our team about culture is, especially on a management team, is that we can develop 50% of the metric and we can develop 50% of the person. Well, one thing we know is that if we can spend more time in the individual, helping them feel like they're achieving their goals, achieving the aspirations they have for their career, that by us aligning with them, they're aligning with the business and they're wanting to go that extra mile to take it to the KPI. It's now an expectation without even speaking it that you're going to hit your goal, not a push to get there.
Yeah. So really kind of collaborating and not just handing over the KPI or the goal and saying, go hit it, but really almost having them come to that conclusion themselves almost.
Yeah. If you can, people, it's true that people want to do good work, right? Like no one goes to work going, today I want to just be crappy, right? Like that's just not how people go to work. I mean, maybe some people do. It's not how I go to work. I want to enjoy what I do. And we spend more time at work than we do even at home doing what it is that we love to do, unless you're remote and then maybe you just turn your computer on and you pretend to be there. I'm not saying that's what you're doing at home, but if it is, you might want to rethink what you're doing for a career. But what I am saying is that if you really want to do good work, right, and you're there to play ball, then that's already in you. And the only thing that the manager can do at that point is break it. So you don't want to break that spirit. How do you embrace it? How do you get someone like just pumped up to go hit it every day? And on the SDR job, you have too many people breathing down your neck for too many different things to be too successful at too many different aspects to always be at your A game. And so you have to have somebody that's more of a builder of the person than a builder of the metric.
And Natasha, I know when we spoke, you touched a little bit around how important like the hiring process was for you, right? Really finding the right types of people to join your teams that are, most likely going to be successful. So from your perspective, I mean, how much do you look at culture within your hiring process, or what are things you're doing when onboarding reps to bring them into that culture?
Thank you. Yeah, so I think I might answer this a bit backwards, but I think it's really important for sales development leaders to really hold the flag for their team. I do not stop promoting my team within the company. If there is any opportunity for me to jump into any meeting to claim success for my team, because it's very easy to talk about sales and customer success who are really bringing in the revenue, but we forget that that revenue doesn't start without sales development touch. It's very, very important that every other department in my company understands who sales development are, what we're about, and what our goals are, and what we're here to do. And on the flip side of that, it's really, really important for my team to understand their place in the business. I don't want them working in silos. I want them to understand exactly how important what they're doing is and how it feeds into all of these other departments and what everybody else is doing. So I think that's a really important part of the culture for me, is constant promotion on both sides, promoting the business to my team and promoting my team and my reps to the business. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to hiring, I'm constantly looking for people to fill the gaps that I have, for want of a better way of expressing that. Like, I don't know everything. Like, my current role, I don't come from a marketing. I know SaaS inside sales marketing, I know demand generation, but we're speaking to agencies, we're speaking to huge enterprise brands. I don't come from that world. I hired people who came from that world. So they might not have sales development experience. They might not even really have sales experience, but they worked in marketing agencies. So they're closing a gap that I have. How do we speak to this audience? What is the language that they respond to? And I think when you're hiring, looking for the intangibles, I'm sure we can all teach someone how to use Salesforce, or we can all teach, it's the intangibles and the business acumen that is much more difficult, I think, to teach, especially when you're with a younger population, which sales development reps typically don't have the experience. I have business acumen just because I'm 40 and I've been doing it for years, right? I can't expect a 23-year-old to have that same experience. It's difficult to teach without the experience. So I want to hire people who come with that experience that's more difficult to pass on, because I know that the Salesforce, the process, sales 101, how to conduct a call, how to write an email can be taught.
It's a really interesting point too, because where I think today there's this expectations for sales development where you have to be the master cold caller, the master communicator, writer, social marketer. Like, you know, the expectations, I think, within sales development, because of how important it is growing and growing. But on the flip side, we're putting probably the most junior and just because of tenure, most experienced staff out there. How do we fix that? How do we enable or how do we bridge the gap with super high expectations for the team?
I think you forgot something there too. And I know, Blake, you got to get in on this, man, because so far I feel bad. But
I don't answer to the first question.
Good. I just want to throw one other caveat in here. I'm going to turn it right over to you. But one other thing too is that you spend maybe 4 months, right? Typically, is that typical? Would you say, guys, ramp for your SDRs, typical ramp 4 months to get, right? If you spend 4 months training these individuals, then you do ongoing continuation training, enhancing their skills. And about 8 months later, we're cycling them out to take them to AE, CSM, whatever, to rehire and restart. So we actually only get 8 months of quota with our SDR. We're constantly on this cycle in and out. So not only do we have to teach the skills you just said, but we're cycling them in and out like it's like they're hotcakes. Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, so going back maybe 3 or 4 questions ago, really quick, by the way, I've done enough of these to know it's not about just spitting something out there. So I didn't have something yet. I wanted to give you guys something good. We touched on a little bit here about helping your team see the bigger picture and where they fit in the larger organization. Kind of continue on to that point. Really, for me, it's about one team, one goal, right? If you can get the SDRs to understand, listen, we're not competing against each other. We're all learning. We need to do that in collaboration and community. So if you can help them to see like, hey, if he's struggling with that or if she's struggling with that, that's our struggle. If he's succeeding with that or she's succeeding with that, that's our success. We can take credit in the playing. We can take credit in the wins. But if you've got that team that like sees themselves as a unit moving towards a goal, I think it becomes easier for them to all improve. Whereas if you've got a bunch of individual people and their individual goals, you're going to have some people lag behind. You're going to have some people go ahead of the group. But ultimately, you end up with that problem Brian just mentioned, where the good people, they're gone. And the people that are struggling, they're either still there struggling or they're gone too, and you have to replace them. And so it's like, why not have everyone succeed at the same pace? That's my perspective on that point.
Go ahead, Brian. You have something there.
Yeah. I'm picking it up where I left off. So your question, Kevin, that you just asked was that you have all these different skills, right? So what is it? Ask the question again. What is it that we're trying to? How do we?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a large gap in terms of expectations around competency and skill sets. Right? You need to be a master cold caller, a master writer, social community builder. The list goes on and on and on what an SDR has to be great at to be very successful.
Yep.
However, the expectation is placed on potentially some of the most, just because of tenure in the workforce, most junior and inexperienced staff. So A, is it fair to have those expectations? Or B, if it is, how do we enable, train, build that knowledge up?
So part of it, I think, is the expectations that we're setting when we're building these teams from the get-go. And I know we spoke a little bit about this prior, but none of us are doing a good enough job of setting the expectation. If you're building an SDR program from scratch, I made this mistake several times myself, so I know from experience, but if you're building an SDR program from scratch and you haven't had a 2-year conversation with the founder or CEO about what to expect, that it's going to take possibly up to 2 years to get that team ramped to full capacity. And when we say ramped, I don't mean like hitting quota. I mean to its actual growth mode. I'm talking about to the ability to look at and see, oh yeah, no, outbound has a future. This is actually a revenue generator. The majority, you have to take it a step back, right? We have all these skills that we have to train the SDR, but focusing on the customer, there's a difference between a hand-raised inbound lead and a non-hand-raised outbound lead. And when we hire an SDR team, unless they're working underneath the marketing function to help them qualify leads on inbound, when we're talking outbound, generally speaking, especially in a consultative deal cycle, you're looking at long deal cycles. And long deal cycles mean a long time to realize revenue off of often a very expensive investment. So it's going to take time, more time than anyone cares to admit, to actually make that realized revenue and get it to the right place. There's so many different caveats. That's where I begin with that, though, is that how do you set the expectation to actually pave through what that future is going to be like instead of, bulldozing it?
I also... May I?
Go ahead, Natasha, because I was going to say, I'm sure you've had your fair share of CEO, founder, board has expectations of, just like hire a team, get them ramped. We'll start seeing pipeline in 4 months from now, and it on the surface. But how do you go about setting those expectations, or what do you think the right expectation is?
That wasn't what I was going to answer, but okay.
Well, then you go for it. Then you go for what you were going to start with.
No, going back to I don't care how my team reach their target. I don't care. So I get some reps who are better at calling and some reps who are better than emailing. So this idea that you need a very well-rounded, someone who can email, someone who can call, someone who can do, yes, you need to have a slight jack of all trades, but I have reps who can hit targets just via email and barely ever pick up the phone. Good for them. Are their opportunities closing? Great. What do I care that they don't? Cool. I have other reps whose emails, please don't send an email without me checking it. But guess what? They can hammer the phone and they can get anyone to say yes to them on the phone. Good for you. So I think on top of what everyone else has said, it's knowing what your reps love, knowing what they're good at, and then just relaxing. Like you don't have and to go back to Brian's point at the very beginning of this conversation, it doesn't, those KPIs, I don't care about how many calls someone made today. I really, really don't. I don't care about how many emails someone sent. I care about the bottom line. I care that you're creating actual business opportunities that are closing. So if I find I have one rep who has an amazing network on LinkedIn, again, because he came from the industry, He gets a lot of his meetings. He goes into our tool. He produces his own content. He publishes his own content. That's what he loves. Why would I tell him to stop doing that because he has to hit an 80 call a week or an 80 call a day metric, whatever it is these days that people are saying? Like, so I think that's a really important part of leadership, is knowing the skills of your team and being relaxed enough to pull it out of them and not demand them to work in a way that isn't, you know, aligned with their natural skill set.
Yeah, and
Not answer the question, Kevin. I'm sorry, but
No, that was great though. Blake, you've got something.
Yeah, really briefly. It's kind of random. I'm a big believer in maps over compasses. Destination over direction. So for me, it's about understanding where are we trying to go, where are we trying to get to, what is the goal? And Natasha brought it up beautifully in the first answer of what is the purpose of this company? Where are we trying to get as a company? And if the reps understand that, I think that they can then start to see, okay, what skills do I need to acquire? What skills do I need to build to help us get there? If they see themselves as part of that big organization, they start to understand, okay, I got to equip myself with what I need to not only succeed in this role, but ultimately to succeed as I move up the ladder. On the flip side, though, from the manager's perspective, there's so much stress that rolls downhill from the CEO, from even the board with these goals. And it's hard not to believe this, but it's not a race. I mean, like, if you're building a great business, you might get there in 4 years, 5 years, you might get there in 10. But like, when you make it this sprint at all costs and speed at all costs, you miss opportunities to learn. And that's at the organizational level. So you take that and apply it at the SDR level, even more so, because those are folks that are coming in without that standard of knowledge or that prerequisite of skills. So I think it's twofold, just helping them understand like where we're trying to get to as an organization, and secondarily, as individual reps, how do you go about acquiring the skills you need to thrive now and then, rather than just focusing on hitting a number in the meantime, right? Because that input is not going to be what makes us a great company. It's the output. And truthfully, I don't care how you get there, as long as you get there. Mm-hmm. With you.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on one thing off of Natasha's point. I think it's really important to identify that as long as your reps are getting to that bottom line, that's really what matters. And you shouldn't micromanage somebody who's doing it their way as long as they're doing it. One of the dangers, though, just to keep in mind, is that you need to have some sort of plan. I like your map analogy, Blake. I think that's great. You have to have some sort of map for scalability when you're hiring, right? Like, you have a new person coming in, the first thing they're going to ask you if they've ever done it before is, what do I do? You need to have that map. And I think that having some sort of map that gets their hands into all the different types of outreach they could do, they're going to find what works for them. And I think that works well. Right now, maybe they're not going to be a social guru. Maybe they just pound the phone. One other thing to keep in mind, too, is the type of prospect you're reaching out to, your type of sale. A consultative sale is going to be high interaction, high amount of volume. You want to get in front of them. That might be a lot more cold calling than something where you're reaching out to the Fortune 500. You don't want to burn out the phone of the CEO because, they only get one, and chances are they're not leaving for a while.
I agree. I think it's important to have benchmarks, internal benchmarks ourselves. But again, going back to something you said earlier, that's my problem. Right. That's my job to worry about that. That's not my rep's job.
Right.
If I see someone struggling and I look at all in what they're doing, I'm like, they're not picking up the phone. It's like the first thing, right? Okay, but that's my problem as their leader.
Right.
I should have those numbers in mind. I should understand what they should be doing for. And yes, you can tell them and I show them, but I don't want them to get bogged down with those like vanity KPIs and metrics. Like, that's my job. I'm in charge of that. They just need to run free with their lives, have fun with the job, because SDR, it's not even, it has a reputation. I want it to be fun.
There is a place of SDR paradise where SDRs run free and frolic and feel.
It's a company.
That's your happy place, like in Happy Gilmore.
Natasha, to give some context for that point, there's a great book called Drive by Daniel Pink, and he talks about what motivates us is mastery, autonomy, and purpose. Purpose we've talked about a lot. Where are we going as a company? Mastery you're going to get every day you show up in the office. But the autonomy part is key, and we miss that as leaders.
Yeah.
We don't give our reps the autonomy to grow. So if I come to a place, I know where I need to get to, I know what I need to learn how to get there, but you don't give me the freedom to figure that out,
Exactly.
to hit the road, I'm going to lose motivation.
Exactly this. And I think, yes, I think this is what has created this atmosphere of SDRs that in and out. Like right now, SDRs, it's just a badge. I have to earn my wings so I can become an AE, because we've become this engine. This means you've got to make X amount of calls, and the beginning of every quarter, we all know the AEs, they slack at the beginning of every quarter, and the BDRs have to come in and they have to hammer because they don't have the luxury of just waiting to close their deals at the end of the quarter, right? We have all seen this. And I think this idea of autonomy and just giving the reps the freedom to make a few mistakes is so important, so they can figure out, and explaining to them the whys, not just you have to make calls, explain to them why are the calls important, why is leaving voicemail. It's not that you're leaving a voicemail that's important, it's the combination of all the different touch points, because you're creating a groundswell within the organization. And if they understand, oh, I need to create a groundswell, I need to get people talking about me, maybe they have their own way of doing that doesn't involve making 1,000 phone calls. So explaining the why we do things to people is I think, more important than telling them what to do, because they might have a better way of doing it than I do. And good for them if they do, right?
Love it. Love it. Love it. You guys are all agreeing, which is a little strange for this call as opposed to last one.
Well, I don't like
something we've...
What happened?
I don't like your headphones.
Why not?
I prefer Beats. I don't know.
Now I'm taking that as a personal no, I'm just kidding.
I hope Jordan in the last one.
So something the topic we've touched on a little bit, but I really want to dive into is the topic of the short tenure SDR, right? The shelf life of 12 to 18 months. You come in, you train them, they produce for a few months, and now it's I want to be an AE. How much of that is just the the SDR mindset of I want to get promoted and I want to move up? How much of it is the business need to move a top performing person up into that next role? Where does it stem from, I guess, is the question. Blake, go for it.
I'm ready this time.
Yes.
We've done a really poor job of positioning the purpose of this work. For a lot of people, they come into it and they think it's a job. Some people are fortunate, they think it's a career. A lot of people miss the opportunity to see it as a craft. This is something that you can take with you in a variety of industries, a variety of roles. And if you come into this work with the sense of craft, you're going to do everything you can to become better at your craft. The most practical way I can explain this is when I was in college, I majored in political science. So a lot of people would ask me, Blake, are you going to run for office someday? And I was like, yeah, I'd like to someday. I've got to get some rich friends first. But, and then they're like, well, what position do you want to run for? And I remember thinking about that at the time, like, I'm not sure, actually. I got a lot to learn, and I don't want to let people down, so I'm not really thinking about that. Over time, that philosophy continued to serve me in a variety of ways. And what I learned was that it's not about the position that I'm pursuing. It's about the person I'm becoming. And so we can get our SDRs to understand that it's not about being an AE as quickly as possible. It's not about being a manager or a VP as quickly as possible. It's about mastering the fundamentals so you can build on that and build on your career and build on your craft. You have that as a mindset, which is something that I have personally, and we try and instill a victory at, then you're going to go into this work with a completely different perspective. You're going to see, hey, I'm going to be asking questions the rest of my career. I should probably learn how to ask better questions. That's not exclusive to SDRs, gathering information. You do that at every level of this work. So I just think it's setting a better precedent for what this is and how to go about achieving it.
I'm going to take that down in a Kevin, if I can.
Please do.
So different context. Over at AirCall, we have we have an SDR team in our EMEA APAC, as well as we have an SDR team in North America. What we find in our France team is that the SDRs over there are in seat 3 to 4 years before they're actually looking for that next move. We don't know why, but we do know that they feel valued in their role, and that they attribute the work they're doing to having a great impact with the company. On the SDR side of North America, all those same facts exist where they feel like they're having an impact, but they have this itch of wanting to get to the next stage. One of the things that drives that is our compensation model. Now, what I can say right away, okay, is that if you are a business that is building 6-figure, 7-figure deals with your SDR program, as long as you're winning those deals and there are deals coming in from that program, take a look at your LTV on CAC metric, because there's absolutely no reason why you cannot pay the same, if not in some cases more, for a really strong, talented SDR that opens up key deals that win. There's literally no reason, right? Now, on top of that is that the skill set of opening up a cold door, let me tell you something, is one that takes a large amount of time to win long term. Now, when you've gotten to this point, you've built this person that is a just gold mine for your business. We then say, okay, you know what? Now we're going to teach you something new. We don't know if you're going to be good at it, but good luck. What the hell are we doing, right? Like, they're different skill sets. And this is the reason why SDR programs got started in the first place. There is also, and our founder over in France is a strong believer in this, also reason to believe that there could be a reverse dynamic that could be built in some instances. If you have an AE team that doesn't do any cold outreach, any cold outbound whatsoever, the only thing they work are the leads handed to them, and they're pre-qualified, and all they have to do is close it, it's argumentative, a good argument rather, to say that you could actually pay that AE less than you could the SDR that brought them the deal. So there's some models that you could work with. And I got to tell you that this is really, it's in my opinion, it's somewhat of a North American culture issue. I don't know if it follows through globally in other businesses. I know for me right now, it's a North American culture issue that we really got to fix.
Yes to everything Brian just said, because I've been saying the same thing. In fact, I said the same thing when we had our prep call. Thanks, Brian.
I'm just stealing your ideas now, Natasha, okay? I wrote that one down. I said, this is mine now.
Yes, everything you just said, but also we need to have a greater hand in the hiring process. Like, do you check the job descriptions that go out? Because most sales development job descriptions have as one of the benefits, move to AE in 9 months. Like, if they're really, path to AE within a year. Like, it's something we promote, the path to AE as part of the hiring process. So from the beginning, and the questions we ask is always like around wanting to sell. And to everybody's point, like, sales development is more than just selling. It's more than just those basic skills that, we get our LinkedIn videos of people shouting at us, telling us how to write a better email or how to close a deal better or everything that we've been doing wrong. And it's so much more. And that's where the creativity comes in. And, when I introduced myself, I spoke about the experimentation. That's who we should be hiring for sales development, is really creative, customer-facing people. That is how, and to keep the job dynamic. The job is so dynamic, by the way, that we don't promote that enough, because again, we're focused on all these ridiculous KPIs instead of just, this is your place in the business. This is the goal. We're a piece of the revenue. As an organization, we need to be making this revenue. That's how, as a company, we're going to succeed. IPO, exit, whatever the goals are there. Now you figure out, and I'm here to support and give you all my knowledge to you, but figure out how you're going to hit that. And you have all the freedom in the world to do it. And if you're hiring the right people and compensating them correctly, there is no reason for them to not want to stay. It's also less pressure.
There is a really easy way for the bold that want to go and implement this right away. And so when you leave this call, you're going to go tell your boss you're changing everything. But there's really an easy way. I was companies that are trying to align like fair pay for gender as well as across channel. When you're thinking about fair pay, you could look at it as levels, right? And I think of it this way: if you were to level out your business, every single job in a business, call it 7 levels, right? If you were to level out every single job in a business, there's absolutely introductory SDR, there's absolutely introductory AE. Shouldn't that be the same level? And I think you could hire for those individuals. And I think you could pay at the levels. And there's no reason why you couldn't scale your business that way. And it's just an interesting way that no one's thinking about this. We're doing it in a way that is encouraging SDRs to go into other channels and become the feeder, if you will, for the revenue org, as opposed to being what they are, which is the most crucial element of the revenue organization. We're putting the future of the company into the most junior hands constantly, instead of putting the future of the company into the people that have been learning how to do it and have mastered it. Going back to Blake's point on mastery.
Yeah, there's something to be said about, and again, I think we discussed too, but landing those meetings that actually convert, whether you're talking mid-market, enterprise, that's probably one of the most difficult, challenging components of the sale. And you're basically, in a way, trying to push that away. And if you have someone who's mastered and done it very well, I think, Brian, to your point, when you start to model this out, even just from metrics financial perspective, there's ways to make it work so that people that are very, very good at this want to continue doing it. Super interesting. Any other super passionate, bold takes on how we can address?
There hasn't been any
point?
passion on this panel at all today. I don't know.
None.
The worst.
Oh shit! Wow.
Been gone for 15 minutes. You're drunk already? What the hell?
I was gonna say I was feeling warm and fuzzy from the drink, but the hashtags tomorrow, Brian, that are going to be under your name. You better watch out on LinkedIn. Woo. We're throwing overgrown SDR
hashtag.
So Amanda Most of my team, who does a lot of the content work and marketing work for us, just said this is the easiest content panel that we've ever had. And everything they say I'm writing down. So you guys are going to be on blast over the next week. But Kevin, you've also had the easiest moderator job I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, I didn't do anything, actually.
That one time you tried to ask me a question, I was like, hell
This
no.
is over already?
No, we are not even close to over.
Blake threw me for a curveball. That is an absolute first in all moderated panels. We're like, Blake, over to you. And you're like, nah, like, I'm good, bro.
Well, you're not the one. Not today.
So we want to make this a little different. We want to bring some people in from the audience because there is a lot of chatter, and our panel is not only dishing it out, but they're in the chat too. So, good panel.
I'm trying to break the fourth wall.
I promise. Got to get next level. I promise, Brandon, you're up first. Then we got Tiffany. And then, it seems like in the poll, 4 other people said their biggest challenge is something other. So speak up in chat. But now is your time to jump on screen too. We want to hear about those. Because obviously we have some experts here. So just hit that little share audio button on screen. Self-proclaimed experts. And there he is. I'm going to jump off and just moderate. And here we go, Brandon.
Awesome. Chris, thanks for having me. Amanda, definitely thanks.
Brandon, what's up, man?
Kevin, the big homie, the man himself. Thanks again for having me. Really excited and happy to be here. As far as me and my background, quickly, I'm an SDR leader. Transparently, I've been furloughed when COVID struck, really utilizing this time to openly network, openly stay sharp, pick the brains of other great sales leaders from Brian, Blake, and Natasha. What I've been doing in the meantime, I just started my side career as an adjunct professor at New York University and Mercy College to stay sharp as well. Thank you. As far as my questions, due to the fact that I've got furloughed since COVID, I really wanted to get an understanding of what's been going on since everything started. So When COVID first hit, everyone had the mentality of let's not hard sell, right? Let's change the playbook. Let's be empathetic, right? And when we first implemented that, I seen a lot of success initially. Definitely a lot of good response rates on the back end. But over time, most, if not all, companies changed their playbook to that empathetic approach. So what I started seeing was, okay, what is my team going to be doing to have a unique approach now so we don't sound either one, cliche, or two, just like everybody else? And that kind of eliminates the whole point of what we're doing to change the playbook. So kind of wanted to, pick the brains from the three of you to understand, I guess, some of the messaging, some of the verbiage on the back end, and the outreach processes during this time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll stab at this real fast. So, Brandon, first off, congratulations to you on continuing to invest to yourself. I think that it's really easy to take a step back and when you're in your situation and try to figure out, what's the next step. You're taking steps forward, and I think that's really great. Chris, you should hook him up with that job that you have an opening for. That being said, to your question. It's funny, right? Like we said, the empathy first was. I remember the post. We said empathy first. That's the way. Like, stop sending these non-empathetic emails. People are going through crap, and you're blowing up their inbox. What the hell? And then I actually remember a colleague of mine had asked me about an email that she should send or tell her team to send. And then I think it was like a month passed. And before I knew it, that email had entered my own inbox from a totally different company of someone that was prospecting me. And I was like, wait a minute, I know this email. This is so weird. So I think like what's funny is when we identify that something's a best practice, it's already obsolete. And I think that's the first thing. The second thing is that right now, more than ever, can we all just agree that automation is dead? All right, there's some automation that is alive and kicking, but automation from an email perspective is dead. It's absolutely dead. You have to find a way to personalize your messaging. And if you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong. And anybody that says bots are better and there's a way in which to do it right, you can absolutely come see me after, and we can go to the schoolyard out to the flagpole, because I'm going to tell you you're wrong, okay? You're flat out wrong, all right?
Right.
Automation and bots are dead. I think that there's a human element that's always existed in sales that surpassed business to business and business to consumer. I think that knowing that up front and addressing every interaction from a human-to-human basis and trying to actually just speak to the individual, lose your value pitch, lose your call to action, just talk to the individual on the other end of the email and have a conversation. If you can do that in a real human way that shows that you care about the other individual, you win. The last piece of advice on that is anybody writing emails today, go read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and then write your emails.
Brian, thank you. I have a follow-up question to that real quickly before Natasha. Sorry.
Yeah.
So as far as that approach, so we actually tried that initially. We tried the manual approach, the personalized touch, to actually taking screenshots of Amazon sellers' brands to find a pain point and a gem to see if they were winning or losing on their PPC campaigns, and to see if a competitor was beating them out on obtaining full coverage. But the one issue that I found was the adjustment to translate into that manual approach as far as how these SDRs are utilizing their time. Because they're, it's kind of like a muscle memory. It's like a sport. When you're playing basketball, you're shooting 10 shots, right? And then when you change your flow to the manual approach, it really threw the team off, I'd like to say.
Yeah, so I'll speak to that quick, and it goes also to Anupreet on the side over there. I'm not saying abandon outreach and Sales Loft. Those are task managers. If you're using them as automation managers where you just click a button and everything just goes, you're doing it wrong, right? What I'm saying is that 20%, there was a study done by Sales Loft. Jeremy Donovan led the study that if you can personalize anything from 20% to 80% of your messaging, you get the same response. Anything less than 20, anything over 80, and your response actually declines. So between 20 to 80% of your messaging being personalized in some way. being sure to make sure that you're doing your proper touch points throughout. That's what a task manager does, like Sales Loft or Outreach. That's how you can automate your messaging. And Brandon, something like that, like you have to understand your purpose, like who your prospect is. If you're doing too much personalization, then scale it down. Figure out what you can templatize, but you need to make sure at least 20% of that message is personalized to that individual. It couldn't go to anybody else. Natasha, jump in.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, firstly, I think your question is super relevant, but I don't think it's relevant just for COVID. I think in general, our job is to constantly break through the noise. And to Brian's point, every time something's gone by, this is the best sequence, it's dead. If everyone's using it, it's dead. So our number one job is to always, how are we going to break through the noise? Like, you are all leaders, you are all managers in this forum right now. How many emails do you get into your inbox every single day? So one of the first things I teach my reps is my experience. What my experience is as a prospect for other organizations. What works, what doesn't work. I think that's always really, really important. You all know what it is to evaluate software, bring that to the table. What's working, what isn't. Cutting through the noise. And yes, this whole empathy, at the beginning of COVID, it worked for maybe 5 minutes. And then everyone was just they had to do their jobs anyway. And it was kind of back to normal. I think email is dying. Also, the spam filters are getting stricter and stricter and stricter. We're finding even emails that have gone out from my email address through our marketing automation gets caught in the replies to those emails. The reply to my own email is getting caught in spam these days. So I think the next move is to think, how do we connect with people beyond email? And to your point, Brandon, about this mix of automation and not, the way I see, this is a nice tip for you. Look at the persona you're targeting. Go to the job descriptions. LinkedIn, Indeed. In those job descriptions, you will see what the main challenges are of that role. What are they looking for? It's the same across, like, again, I'm using the example of my current organization. I want to speak to social media managers, right? It doesn't matter the industry. The role and responsibility and objections of every job description for a social media manager is the same. It means I can get a semi-personalized message out, which can be very, very automated. Right, because I'm speaking to the specific goals and the specific needs of that individual, not that business, but that individual. I know that this is something that's important to you. This is what I'm going to help you do. Right. Once I get and that I build my sequence, I can pump hundreds of people. Once I see engagement, the people clicking, the people opening, that's when I go super, super personalized. The ones that are already engaged, that's when I pull out the one-to-one methodology, and so I think that should potentially, hopefully, solve some of that question between where do I automate and how can I personalize, and that's what we found has worked tremendously for us.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Brandon. Good to see you, buddy.
My man. Love.
Be good. We'll catch up soon.
For sure.
But that's empathy, right? Like knowing someone's how to help somebody, like that's what empathy is. It's not unprecedented times and hope you're well. Tiffany,
Hi.
What's going on?
I'm like trying to figure it out. Thank you, everyone. For doing this. This has been really helpful. My question was pretty straightforward, and I think Brian, you started touching on this a little bit earlier. So I'd just like to hear a little bit more from you guys. But we're talking about SDRs and how we set them up for success. What if they're new to the role and the industry completely, as Natasha alluded to? Like some people maybe they weren't an SDR, but maybe you're selling to advertisers and they're coming from an advertising background. Like or maybe they're not completely, So how do we destigmatize the learning curve and instill confidence in an area that may not come organically, especially in a role where there's so much room to get bogged down. And I think everyone knows by experience that the worse you are mentally, that's just going to hinder your performance. So maybe you guys can touch a little bit more on that.
Sure. I talk a lot, so I want to open it up to the other two panels before I kick it off.
So as I mentioned before, I work for a company called Big Blue Lab, and one of the things that we do is we bring folks from a variety of backgrounds, people like myself who are career changers, grads new to the job market, and then also people that have previous selling experience. One of the things that we've seen work as a success in terms of helping people start faster and stay longer at their companies is just changing their frame of reference for what sales is and isn't. There's a term in psychology called schema, which basically it's like if you're a little kid, you see a large animal, 4 legs and spots, you're like, cow? But it also might be a Dalmatian, but you have a frame of reference for what it could be, right? You know it's not a frog because you have a schema for that. And so what we can do for people in sales is helping them understand, like, people think sales is, I don't know, this like sleazy work, or it's persuasion, and it's, I got to get them to, sales is about solving problems for people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just don't know what they are yet. Mm-hmm. Just giving them that changes a lot. But then helping them see, like, okay, so you're not bugging people. You understand a problem that they're facing. You go across the table, you look at the problem with them, and then you guys help find a solution. You might have it, you might have someone else who has it, but it's changing that frame of reference for what the work is. Then they can come into the work with a sense of approachability, understanding that, wait, I've been asking questions my whole life. If I ask better questions, I'll get better answers. That's sales. I've been finding problems my whole life. That's actually pretty easy to do. Life gives you lots of problems. You do that, right? And so you make these things approachable, tangible, relatable. They can start to move into that work with a sense of confidence and clarity about who they are as a seller.
I think my initial answer, Tiffany, and I agree with Blake's assessment there. My initial answer is that, you know, there's that book To Sell Is Human, right? I think that that's just in essence of a quote that is absolutely correct. I've been across MarTech, AdTech, different forms of SaaS and brand products. I'm now in a telephony company. I remember when I was looking at AirCall, I didn't even look at the product and think, okay, like, can I sell this product? I looked at the people first and thought, is this a team that no matter what they had in their hands, they could take to the moon, right? And that's where I started. And then once I joined, I fell in love with the product. And I think what I'm getting at is that if you're a person that, in essence, can establish the needs and the impacts those needs are having on somebody's business and those individual roles or that individual person, then you can align your solution to that very easily and without really having to have a large gamut of industry information. Now, I don't know what industry you're in, but let's say industry information is crucial in your onboarding. You need to be able to give them the groundwork, right? Not talking about the deep dive, but enough that makes them dangerous, you know? And I think that's about as far as I would go. And then over time in that role, continuation training to enhance their skills, spend more time with the reps that know this stuff inside and out, have them get on demo calls, have them get on customer success calls, let them hear what it sounds like on the other side once somebody's onboarded, the complex questions of that. I think that helps then shape the overall skill and knowledge base. And then lastly is just for them to go and do their own research. And anybody that's on this call knows how to do that. But that's not an innate trait. That's something that people usually need direction towards. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. That was mine.
Natasha, anything you want to add, Natasha?
I think everyone covered. I think
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah.
All right, we got Jonathan. Jonathan, what's up, man?
Hey, everybody. Sorry for the hair. I got caught in a hailstorm. So I'm
all going to say something, but now we won't.
We feel bad.
It's not a return to pomade. Love the channel. This is great. I agree with all of you. I think one of the major challenges about this entire function is that it's looked at as the way to discount and underpay the entire revenue process. And that's stop, and that's what's going to change it in North America and get it more aligned to what we're seeing in other regions. But my question is around with this now a fully professionalized function that is just starting to be realized on the negative side of it and how we're managing it today. So we applaud and we look to replicate those things that come out as 10% in a sales opportunity. They're the best ones. Let's do that over and over again. But what about the other side where the outreaching and they piss off a prospect, or they, inadvertently, or just not trained well enough, or for, whatever reason. But what's the damage that's potentially being done with this group? How do you track it and manage it? And how do you work to improve on it so that it doesn't happen?
My initial reaction to that is there's no damage that's being done. My experience is people just want to be heard. They're not really so pissed off that they're never going to do business with you again. They're having a bad day. We caught them on a bad day, and it's like the people on Yelp who leave a 1-star review because they've traveled all around Japan and they know what sushi tastes like, and they went to this one restaurant, and guess what? They were made to wait too long for their reservation. It's the same as those. They just need a forum to vent. And so the best thing you can do is just let them. In my history of managing sales development teams, I've received so many emails and so many phone calls of people. How dare you? I received your rep call. I'm so sorry, madam. Oh, I'm terribly, terribly sorry. And tell me, what was your interest in that? Do you know how many of them become opportunities? I would say 90% of them, really. Like, people just want to bitch. Let them bitch and just suck it up. Tell them, thank you, please, yes, of course. Lose your ego, listen to what they have to say, and then move them through the pipeline.
I need a Staples Easy button that has preloaded Natasha saying, "I am so sorry, madam," and I want to press it. That is terrific.
Accent might have a lot to do with it. And like magic here. Everyone always asks me, "Will you move back to England?" I'm like, no. Same as everybody else there. I have no skill back in the UK.
I had an English CEO, and I gave him 20% bump on every conversation.
Yeah, I'm not gonna deny that. But yeah, my personal experience is, and I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. Is
just that toxic scenario. You say just lean into it and find.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm definitely going to speak to my rep about it. You're absolutely right, bringing it to my attention. So how can I help you? What are your challenges? Right? It's amazing. They just need someone to agree with them. That's it.
It's one of the thing there too. I've done that without the English class, and I've also done it with another way too. Yeah, with another way too. I found that, especially when you have aggressive outreach, especially when you're first experimenting with maybe new cadences that are a little bit closer together in their touch, and you start really pissing people off. And then you get that one overeager SDR that is also having a bad day because, you know what, they just made 200 dials, and then this person just told them to F off, and all of a sudden that color on the response just isn't quite what you would expect from that person. I will say that any outreach from my team, I would hope that the other management on my team would say this too, but any outreach on my team, I take full responsibility for myself. Yeah. And so, because I wrote the cadence, right? I taught them how to make the cold call. Therefore, if this is what the interaction is, it is my fault. And so I would say just right away, if you can take that angle and be willing to fall on the sword. Just a quick story here. In one of my previous companies, we had an SDR that had quoted a partner that wasn't a partner, and it was a big brand name. And it got to the CEO, and the CEO came running at me and said, "Where is she? Because today's her last day." And I said, "Oh no, that was my fault. I wrote that message. I didn't write that message, but I did, because I taught her how to write that message." You have to be willing to land and fall on the sword for your team. And I think that it's going to also win you huge brownie points for your team in and of itself as well.
That's great.
and to back what Brian just said, I never call my team. I never tell my rep. They're like, I just got this email. Oh my God. And I'm like, you're doing your job. When you get emails like that, you've done your job. Like,
correct.
I never ever call them. Although there was one kid one time who WhatsApped a prospect, and when they responded on WhatsApp, they were like, no, I don't have time. The rep responded, well, if you're responding to me at 9 p.m. in the evening, I think you might have time for a demo. That prospect then tweeted at my CEO and my company with a screenshot of the WhatsApp messaging. So that's a slightly different coaching situation, but overall, yes, as Brian said, you take the heat for your team. I never call them out for it, and it's typically people just need to get it out of their system.
Yeah. When I was in politics, first of all, I live in the Chicagoland area, right? So preface it with that. When I was in politics, I worked on this congressional campaign, and we were calling people during the World Series. The one which the Cubs were calling. Needless to say, they weren't that interested in my candidate. But the fact of the matter is, they still probably went out and voted, right? And so it's like, at the end of the day, you can't please everybody. There's going to be a group of people that don't like you, no matter what you do. There's going to be a group of people that love you, no matter what you do. Sometimes they're just watching the Cubs game. So it's just like, as long as they're doing their job, they're being honest and forthright in their messaging. Some people are just pissy. It's okay. Call them tomorrow.
Blake, we're going to start your political career, man. That's what's going to happen. You're starting tonight.
Are you guys? Thank you. Do you know people?
No, look, I don't know anybody. I just know that that's what's going to happen. You have a whole bunch of gregarious SDRs on this call, and guess what? It's fundraising right there, man. That's how we start. We're going to get it going. We'll talk about your platform next.
Austin, what's up, man?
How's it going? How you doing? Ever having fun?
No.
No, man.
Chris paid me to say that I'm having fun. I am having fun, Chris. Don't worry. I love this, actually. I had a question kind of about hiring, obviously, the SDRs, as I work in these roles a lot. And it kind of particularly to like the churn and burn a little bit. I've had people do 2 phone screens and they get hired, and then 30 days or maybe less, sometimes they just get let go. And it's kind of frustrating for us because we don't. It's hard for us to get kind of paid commission off that. So I guess how do we change the stigma of that, or how do we kind of change the culture around that type of churn and burn type of SDR world?
Clarification, Austin, what's your expectation for success in the first 60, 90 days for that role?
Well, obviously there's a ramp up period, and it depends on the seniority of the SDR. If they're a senior SDR with over a year experience, maybe they should be in industry. They should be able to turn their ramp up pretty quickly and obviously hit numbers. But I think Tiffany mentioned this earlier about the learning curve. Obviously, if they're a fresh grad, I think sometimes you might have to help them a little bit more, just for the fact that it's a brand new role. They don't know the industry, and some people can be slow learners. I always like to give people some chances, obviously, but I think if they've done it before and they're not performing right away, I think that's a different problem. But I still think if it's a new industry, you still give them some time.
I think you're going to get 3 very different hiring styles, because I think everyone has their own. So instead of giving you a hiring style, I'll give you one thing that I do in my vetting process, and take it or leave it. I hate the tell me about a time questions. I think that any question that anybody could hear on any interview is the wrong question. So we've actually done 2 different things. One, I've had someone cold call in an interview, and it tells me exactly whether or not they're going to be able to. So you get a lead list, have them dial the phone. You do a little study in prior, have them dial the phone, give them a script. Second thing you could do is I do a word association. So I give them 2 words that are not necessarily opposites. They have to pick one of the words and rapid fire for like 8 or 9, 10 lines of this or that. And then at the end, they have to go back and defend the words they chose. And the reason why I do this is I look for consistency. I look for energy. I look for a lot of the attributes and traits of depth and their response, and what I can learn a lot about an individual in a short amount of time through this exercise. So it also helps weed out unconscious bias from your interviewing process.
I've never heard of that actually before. That's actually really interesting. Can you give like a quick example, I guess, of 2 words you might have used?
Sure. Motivation or inspiration.
Okay.
And you don't have time to think about it. You have to answer in rapid form. Being the first answer is usually the one they're going to go with anyway. And it's not about right or wrong. There's no right or wrong answer. It's about their ability to defend it and give you a depth, thoughtful decision. Because in sales, you're going to be off the cuff. You're going to have to defend your stance, and you may not have a lot of depth. You need to be able to go deep and be able to speak to somebody in a quick answer.
Okay. That's awesome. No, I guess a follow-up question. I guess you've probably interviewed a couple SDRs in your lifetime. I guess everyone here might have. What has been like an X factor that you've seen or that has worked for you? Maybe somebody didn't think on paper wasn't a good SDR and you're speaking to them. They had some type of X factor. Have you guys been able to see that or tell that? Does that question kind of make sense?
Yep. So I don't know why I'm not the only one with an answer here. I promise the other 2 on this panel have good answer. For me, it's the life experience based. So they're going to have overcome a challenge either personally or professionally that's really hard. They're going to be able to showcase a time when they had to learn a lot of information in a short amount of time, or they're going to not know how to fail. So life has given them some unexpected curveball. They didn't know how to fail.
Okay.
Blake, do you have anything?
I mean, curiosity is kind of the buzzword, which I agree with. Memory actually is another word, though, that I don't think gets thrown out there a lot. I'm guilty of this with my girlfriend, actually. I'll hear her say something. I just don't remember it. So then she thinks I'm not listening.
I do the same for me. I hear me say something and I don't remember it.
So the rep's ability to have this sort of short-term recall, whether at the end of the conversation they can ask something that they've heard referenced early on, or, hey, I read this about your company in this place without looking at notes. That basically just shows that they're able to, I don't know what the word for it is, maybe like spatial awareness, but basically take something from over here, a thought, a word, a point, and bring it back or weave it back into the conversation later on. Because what that does is it boosts your credibility with whomever you're talking with, because it confirms to them that you were listening, and it also kind of pushes the conversation forward as well, because there's that familiarity as well.
A nice exercise is to think of the capabilities, the skills that you're looking for, especially those soft ones that I mentioned earlier. And then think of questions you can ask, like break it down by this is what I'm looking for, and then what could you possibly ask to get the answer. It's the same as doing discovery calls as an SDR, right? You've got to go in, you've got to prep, you've got to understand what is it that I'm looking for? What are the answers that I'm looking for? And it's not like the exact answers, because again, and if we want to start talking about diversity of hiring, there's not enough women in sales, right? This is something I'm obviously passionate about. Job descriptions will ask for ninjas and for hunters, and that's not something that women would necessarily respond to or know. Am I a hunter? I don't know. And what am I trying to say here? It's that people manifest what you're looking for in different ways. So it's really important to understand what it is you're looking for, but then not be stuck on a certain response, but the feeling you get. It sounds very esoteric and airy-fairy, but a woman can come in and she's never going to be as forthright as a man answering the questions. You know, a guy is going to come in and say, I hit all my targets, I did this, I did that. A woman, even if she did, she's never going to come into the meeting doing that. So you have to align your expectations of what it means to get what you're looking for. Because it's not always, like, what do you mean when you say you're looking for a hunter, right? what does it mean when you're looking for someone who is confident or customer facing? And I think that's part of the challenge is we end up hiring these cookie cutter teams because you had one person that was successful and you're like, okay, well, this person exhibited this characteristic, and you're constantly looking for the same characteristics as the people that you're interviewing, and that's not the it's you've got to get to that deeper level of what it really is that you're looking for and draw that from them, because it doesn't manifest the same in every single person that you're going to interview. And then we end up with teams that are very homogenous, that all look the same. And to go back to our earlier points from the panel, you're not complementing each other because you all have the same strengths and you all have the same gaps. So, that's something that I pay a lot of attention to when I'm interviewing and hiring, is paying attention to the answers and interpreting them as to how it works for you and what you're looking for.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Austin.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate you, man. Gabrielle, hi. What's your question?
Hi. So I was curious about best practices when starting from scratch for an SDR team. We're talking about scaling today, so I guess I would orientate the question around what would be the best practice to implement as soon as possible to ensure that you can scale accordingly. And to me, I feel like, and I'm asking this because obviously this is an opportunity that's coming up. And to me, I'm thinking I would definitely want to do it and do cold calls until I get at least one book meeting. And that's just to, lead by example and at least walk the talk of the people you're going to hire. But other than that, I was wondering if any of you had any other tips. Because Brian, when you said, having that conversation about a 2-year vision and ensuring that people understand this is on a long-term revenue channel is important. So what else is important to put as a base when you start?
Yeah. So may I ask, is there a sales team in place already for this instance or not?
We can talk about this specific scenario. There's about 3 customer success to obviously have nailed down the retention, and then there's 2 legacy AE, and I think they're trying to revamp everything. Yep. They are outsourcing BDRs right now to test drive, but I don't think it's working, and that's why they're looking to do it internally. And I don't think anyone has necessarily always nailed the outbound process.
Justin Welsh has a really good article on this that you should go check out. So ping me and I'll get you the link so you can DM me. But that being said, I think companies often try to hire for a BDR function probably prior to when they're actually ready, when they're first scaling up. Exactly what I think BDR programs are really meant for, in my opinion, and look, like I'm speaking very broadly and I'm paintbrushing this, but it really depends on your organization and what goals you have. And all of this goes for any advice that you're getting from any of us tonight. But I think that from my perspective, hiring a BDR team before you have an established AE team that already knows how to prospect, already knows how to find these customers and sell them might be premature. The reason why you're hiring a BDR team, if it's outbound, is because you're trying to accelerate the number of deals you're getting in front of your AEs and take some of that legwork off of them. If you're doing it from inbound, it's because you're trying to accelerate the number of leads through the funnel to get them qualified in front of your AEs. So that's first and foremost. Second is that, let's say you already have the established AE team. Where do you begin? And I think it's, I'll speak to my experience. When I came to Aircall, the CEO said, okay, guys, go out and hire 25 SDRs. It was my very first week. We didn't even have a process built. I said, why are we hiring 25 SDRs? No. Go hire them. Build your process. You're doing it, but go hire 25 SDRs. I didn't know what I was hiring for, right? I didn't even know if this even made sense. I can tell you it was one of the biggest mistakes we made in the program. And it was the first time that I hired before I had a process in place. So my very first piece of advice is to get your process down. know what it is that you're going to do with the team once you have them, and then you'll be able to identify what it is that you're going to be able to do from there. Yeah, Travis, that is the link. So Gabrielle, there you go. Travis hunted it out for you. But go and check that out, and then build your process, and then scale out your AE team, and then build in your SDRs. That would be my advice.
And I guess if I can ask one last question, part of part of Mark Robert's like science of scaling, for example, mentions you should hire a salesperson when it's your first salesperson. It should be half kind of process builder, half salesperson. Would you say looking for these traits in an SDR could be good as well? Because the first SDR you hire, you give them a process that you pretty much need to test and iterate and ameliorate. So I would do that on the SDR side too.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that your best AE is sometimes the best process builder in the world. And just to be clear, the very first salesperson at the company is your founder.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it comes back to the hiring as well. I always put people in bucket. You're either a pioneer or you're a soldier. If you're a pioneer, right, you're at the front with a machete breaking down the forest, and you're leading the way and you're clearing the path for everyone. And then you get soldiers. They're bag carrying, they're individual contributors. They are strong. They're going to keep to themselves. They're going to hit their targets. They are not the people you want to hire at the beginning. You want to hire the pioneers, by the way, are not going to be your top performers.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Right.
And so this, again, it comes back to creating this mix of people you're hiring, and you want a mix of the bag carrying soldiers, and then you want the machete wielding pioneers. And that's what you want to look for, is the guys who don't care, man. They'll try anything. They're all over the place, but they're just chopping that down. Excuse my language.
Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Brian, I must say, whenever you're done talking, I feel like your mic drop is just going back in your chair and being like, just wanted to leave that out there.
I'm going to use it as my mic drop from here on out, but honestly, it's just because I'm uncomfortable when I'm speaking. Then all of a sudden I'm comfortable at the end. I'm going to go with that. But yeah, mic drop. That sounds good. I'm good with that.
Cheers.
What's up, Colin?
Colin, what's up,
Hey
man?
guys, thanks for taking the time. I am typically based in San Francisco, and I am down in Florida to escape some of the fires, luckily. But my question was around, I was hired about 9 months ago at this point to build out our SDR function at my company called Terminal. It's just a mix of, we sell to CTOs and VPs of engineering, and it's a non-technical product mixed between technical recruiting and what you'd say is a PEO, a professional employers organization, HR benefits, payroll, things like that, to basically build and scale remote engineering teams. So when I came into the organization, it was basically 100% or about 80 to 100% inbound or referral. This past quarter, we really fully ramped up our outbound. We saw about 27% of the opportunities created last quarter were outbound. So we built that from zero. And I currently have myself as the SDR and pioneer, so to speak, along with a teammate from my past company that I hired to be a full-time SDR as well. So I've gotten some advice around, and I did a lot of the mathematical modeling around, the average sales price and how many deals we need to close, the revenue, et cetera. I've been told around, like, once you start to kick around 70% of your team goal for a few trailing months, you should feel good about hiring additional reps. So just wanted to get a take on, what I should be thinking. I do report into our co-founder. And so, he was our initial sales rep, and we do have two other AEs or directors who are, doing the full sales cycle at this point.
Who wants to jump in? Or who just wants to go sit on a hammock at this point?
Yeah,
Yo,
right.
Colin, I hope that you and your family and your friends are safe out there, man. It's awful what's going on out there. So I'll start with that. Before, I am sure I have plenty to say here, but again, I feel like I'm talking. So Blake or Natasha, jump on.
I mean, and not to oversimplify, Colin, and you did talk about the trailing metrics, but how confident are you in your playbook? One question. And then how quickly do you think that person is going to make you money, or are they going to be losing you money? Right. And so it's like just kind of doing that math of it. Or if you take, I hate to use a sports reference, but like your replacement level SDR, right, and you plug them in, do they have what they need in your playbook, your process, and your tools to hit the numbers they need to at its simplest level?
Cool. Yeah, I think so. It sounds like you're saying from a financial perspective, it's important to consider those numbers. From a playbook perspective, do we have everything documented? Based on that documentation and our execution, like, do we have enough data to kind of say we feel good about whoever we can bring in this role to, to do the same, if not better than what we can do today? And I think that's a fair assessment because we both are kind of experienced in the role. I've been in closing roles before, and to step back and like have phone presence or be able to I think someone said the alliteration before. Brian said that during the interviews, motivation or inspiration, be able to just go off of that and riff. I don't know if more junior reps are able to do that. So I guess I don't have that experience yet of seeing what junior reps kind of can.
Something else just to keep in mind and consider, you want to take a look at what the expectation is of the venture capital. If there is venture capital in your business, you want to see what the board's expectations are on risk. I'm in a very risk forward company. They don't care about cash burn. In fact, I have a CEO that frequently tells me, "Don't worry about profit." And I'm like, "What do you mean, don't worry about profit? What does that even mean?" But it's something that you want to keep in mind. Because if you have a company that is willing to burn a little cash to figure it out, the second question then is, can your AEs accept more opportunities, accept more pipeline? And if they can accept more pipeline, then hire, give it a shot. If they can't, and you guys, or if you guys are risk adverse, then don't.
Another thing too I want to add in is, if you can, and I don't know what the situation's like, try and hire 2 people. Because then you can kind of A/B test, see what's going on, whether it's the process or the person. I know that's not always feasible, but when possible, hiring 2 people at a time is a great way to see.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for some of your insights. Obviously, there's not full context here. We are a venture-backed company, about 20 million, Series B.
Great.
We hire 4.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Dude, that's in it. Let me tell you something. Series B, exciting time, my friend. You're going to have a good time. Go have fun.
Yeah, I think the recruiting space overall definitely got hit, as you can imagine, the past few months. Yeah. But engineering is a bane in a lot of companies' existence. So we've seen that kind of rebound. But look forward to connecting with you guys more going forward. So thank you.
Good luck, Colin.
Who's this
Trav Daddy, what's up?
What you want, man?
What up, y'all? So
I see that Peloton in the back.
Yeah, it's in the back.
Are you going to freestyle for us?
No, we're not freestyling.
I'm
bringing out my mic stand closet, so I just connected my microphone. So I was like, this should be fun to ask a good question.
You can't rap on a headset like this, so it doesn't work as well.
If I had a good beat, Chris, he had the DJing skills on lock when we came in, but I don't know if I can drop a beat to that freestyle beat-esque music that he was playing when we rolled up. So we won't go there. But my question is the following. So when you're in this role, right, of building a team from scratch, there's a lot of things that kind of get mixed up. And one of the things I feel like is in need of some fixing and updating is like what a push-up looks like for a sales rep, right? Like what sort of ways are you guys behind the scenes training your reps, not during the weekly pipeline update and not during the weekly one-on-ones? Like what are you doing outside of those meetings to help enable your reps stay strong? Because I think a lot of times, honestly, it just gets forgotten as like training's a thing, right? And I'm not talking like hire someone from LinkedIn, pay them money to come and do sales training and then leave, right? Like I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like you as a leader in the like weeds with your reps, like coaching them of how they need to improve. So
I'm like, I don't understand the question.
some people don't do that, Natasha.
And what they have business being a leader of a sales development team. Like that's literally part of my job, is to again understand the gaps that some of my reps have, what they're not usually it's when they're not comfortable. I don't want to say it's a gap. I find that people don't perform when it's like cold calling. It shouldn't even be called cold calling. Picking up the phone and dialing is a massive example of this. It's because they're not comfortable. They have fear. They have fear that they're going to fuck up. They have fear that they're going to embarrass themselves. They have fear they're going to make a mistake. It's our job. It's our job as leaders to recognize this and to give them the tools and the skills that they need so they don't feel like they're going to fail and they're not going to get embarrassed. That's like, if you're not doing that, then you should absolutely be doing that. And I don't understand the question. Development leaders should constantly be, these, as we've talked about throughout this has gone on a while. Was it 2.5 hours at this point, an hour and a half? These are junior, our people are young. They don't have the experience. I don't hire someone because I think they know exactly what they should be doing. I hire someone because they're coachable and I can get them to where they need to be. That's my job. That's my responsibility, to hire someone because I know I believe in them and I believe they can do it. But if I make them feel from day one that they're messing up because, oh, you're not doing what you're supposed to, no, that's not their problem. That's my problem. Because I hired someone with the right soft skills and now I have to give them all the tools and all the resources to be successful. And that's on me. It's not on the individual. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll piggyback off that. I agree, Natasha. I think it's on the full ownership of the leader, right? You have to own the team and know what you need to go and up level them with. And the list of things that you can work on are endless. So I think something that I try to do in my objectives for the year at the beginning of each January is I try to outline what it is that I'm going to work on at both a team level for the SDR team, but then a global level. But that's because I have more of a global oversight of this in my org. But like I think anyone does, if you went to your leader right now and said, hey, I want to lead a global training, I'm sure no one's going to say no. So go do it. But that being said, like you outline what it is you're going to do and attempt to accomplish, but then also like be willing to adjust. If something's just, hey, like no one's picking up the phones because everyone's afraid. I love that, Natasha. You're right. There's a fear factor of the phone. It's like scary. It's scarier than Halloween. If you're gonna go and know that, then you have to be able to drop what you're doing and get in the weeds. And I'll put something else here for you on the fear factor for cold calling. If your reps are afraid of doing it, you're probably not on the floor doing it yourself. So if your reps are afraid of picking up the phone, go get a phone and then pick it up in front of them, which on remote world sounds like, hey, everybody, welcome to my Zoom meeting. Real quick, I'm now going to cold call in front of you for 20 minutes. Like, seriously, you have to do it. You have to get in the weeds on it. But anyway, yeah, lead trainings, continue to and build a map for it.
Travis, can you repeat the question again?
I feel like I just pulled in Natasha. I'm like, what was the question? I was asking about like training. What push-ups look like in your world? Like, what are push-ups and like how do you develop your reps behind the scenes? And Natasha was like, well, that's my job. Like, what do you mean? I don't understand the question.
Like a rep? A phone call, right? Am I oversimplifying that? Like a push-up is a
rep. Yeah, exactly. Like a rep, a phone call, a squat,
role play. You just role play.
Email, whatever it is.
Non-stop role play.
No,
you're not doing it unless you're talking to people. So talk to someone, and you talk about how you talk to someone.
remove their fear, remove their shame, create a space where everyone is super comfortable. That's how you coach. And I push up. I always like to use a lot of sport analogies that go way over my head. So push-ups, whatever, I don't know. But yeah, it might take away people's fear of making mistakes, and you'll get them to do anything.
If you can make a fool of yourself in front of them, you'll get them to do anything.
Which, as you can see, is very easy for me.
I feel like Brian has made a career out of making a fool of himself in front of other people. That's what you do.
It's actually my real title. I didn't want to talk about it, but that is my.
I don't know about y'all, but I kind of want to see Brandon close us out with a freestyle, and then I'll hop off.
I kind of want to see.
I'm just gonna go ahead and see that in there, and I'm gonna close my screen. Bye, y'all.
I asked him, and I don't know. I've never seen Brandon this quiet in all the years I've known him. Where'd he go? Brandon?
Bueller? Bueller?
Well, I did want to close it out because I know people have other commitments. Brian, are you going to opera? Where are you going tonight?
I was gonna go and try to. I got the kids trying to go to bed. They need milk, but I just hit up one of the guys at the firehouse. I was like, "Yo, can you go pick up milk?" And now I'm free. If anyone wants to ask more questions, I'm down. I got time. Whatever. It's all good.
If you, Natasha, and Blake have a little more time and people have more questions, we can keep this going. If not, I mean,
I'm good.
Literally, what else? I'm going to roll from here. It's just behind me.
Ask me questions.
On whatever TV I missed over the weekend. That's literally been my evening for the last 6 months.
Let's figure out how to start Blake's campaign.
Blake, you got a lot of cold callers backing you up, man.
About $100,000 to get the job done.
Get that in an evening. Let's go.
That's easy in the VC world. Come on.
Yeah, I think we got that.
You just gotta.
I don't know what the return on their investment's going to be.
You just gotta say there's a software tied to it, and they'll just throw money at you. That's it.
No, but seriously, any other questions from the crowd here? I know we got the numbers dwindling, but 21 people. What say you?
Oh, I got 25 on my end. Oh well, yeah. You did math quick.
19.
6.
I'll be honest though, in my next life, I want to come back as an SDR on Natasha's team. If I'm being totally real right now, and I can restart my SDR career, I would go and work for Natasha.
What about
run in the beautiful fields and be happy?
The pay AEs less hashtag might blow up tomorrow a little bit, Brian. You might have an angry mob at your door, but
no, it's fine. Anything out of context is always worth giving a shot. So I love that. Let's go.
I agree, though.
We're gonna be Colin Cadmus and stir the pot. That's what that is. Let's go. Natasha, that's your favorite person, by the way. I just wanted to drop that hint at you.
Sorry, I missed it.
Oh, it's
sorry.
fine.
No, I didn't catch it.
I think that would be. Oh, you go.
I was saying, I said we could stir the pot. We could all just be like Colin Cadmus and stir the pot. I was trying to get a rise out of you, but
no, not in a public forum. Everywhere.
Well, at the end of the day, that is why, honestly, when Kevin, Travis, and I talked, it was we want to put on stuff with operators who could give insightful advice, not just LinkedIn quick little blurbs that are out there. I mean, that's why we put this together. We want people to come along.
And I think that's the thing that everyone forgets. It's not about me. This is the you asked us to all finish on a takeaway, and I've been racking my brains. What is my takeaway? And it's to put yourself in the shoes of your buyer. If you can do that, the job is so easy. That's all you need.
Back, Brian.
That was it. That was the mic drop of the event. If you didn't hear anything else tonight, that was all you needed. That's it. DM, game over. Done.
Thank you. It's not about me. It's not about the SDRs. It's just about understanding your buyer and giving them what they need.
Yep.
That's the job.
Yes.
In terms of understanding people and your buyer and growing and learning more, I ripped this one off of Urim Stone at the Enterprise Sales Forum, but what is like one little piece of, content podcast outside of Addicted to Growth? Everyone should go check that one out. What do you guys recommend people should listen? Listen, read, watch.
Addicted to Success.
Addicted to Success. Yeah, there you go.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no, we're getting kicked out.
They timed us out. So
We're
they're
done.
kicking us out. That's it. The end.
That's great.
Party's over.
Only 8 people left anyway.
Give feedback. 18.
7.
What numbers he got?
That's it. I'm watching a 5. There's only 5 now. All right. I think we're the 5.
And it's us.
Yeah,
and
it's just
all
us.
right.
That's it.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Have
you
a good
so
night.
much.
You guys are awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.